Congressman Bowman is already facing a potential challenge from Westchester County Executive George Latimer, who says he will make a final decision after returning from a solidarity trip to Israel. Other squad members, including Cori Bush, Ilhan Omar, Summer Lee, and Rashida Tlaib, are all expected to face potential primary challengers as well. As Michelle Goldberg writes in the New York Times, a series of ugly primary campaigns fought over Israel will only widen the progressive political divide. But with horror at conditions in Gaza and Jewish fear both ratcheting up, an intra-party clash over the future of the squad now looks inevitable. Joining me now is New York Congressman, Democrat Jamal Bowman. Congressman, thank you for coming here to talk about. I know it's a tricky topic. It's a difficult topic. But talk to me a little bit about what this moment has been like as you sort of navigate a constituency really more pronounced in its division than many other members of Congress.
Yeah, it's been a traumatic moment. It's been a painful moment. It's been a moment filled with grief and suffering by my Jewish constituents as well as my Muslim constituents. And so it's been multi-layered. You have the behavior of the Israeli government, which needs to be critiqued very strongly, in my belief. You have the impact of that critique on the Jewish community, both locally in my district and globally. You have Muslims who have felt erased in this whole conversation and even dehumanized as well when you hear some of the rhetoric coming from Israeli officials towards Palestinians, referring to them as animals. So it's been multi-layered, multifaceted, filled with very strong emotion. And what I've tried to do is just absorb it, sort of stand in the middle of it, learn from it, and then use what I learned to govern accordingly in a way that meets the needs of a diverse constituency, as you mentioned.
I was struck, Michelle Goldberg, who was just our guest in the previous segment, followed your campaign as you tried to navigate meetings with constituents over on this topic. And she quotes one woman who was involved, I believe, with your campaign at one point, Diana Lovett, said polarization over the congressman was tearing apart local Democrats. I love him personally. He was lovely, and he's amazing, and he was the same warm and open-hearted person that he was today. This is at the event that you had. But she had come to believe that their views on the Middle East are irreconcilable. When you hear that, what is your reaction to that?
Oh, thank you for saying I have a big heart.
Well, she said that.
No,
yeah.
Thank you to her for saying that. I don't think they're irreconcilable. I think for a very long time, we've been having one conversation without the other. We have been saying for so long we are pro-Israel, pro-Israel's right to exist, pro-Israel's right to defend itself and self-determination. But we haven't been saying the same thing about Palestinians. And so what I've been trying to communicate, and this is all, again, based on my learning. I work very closely with Americans for Peace Now, J Street, If Not Now, Jewish Voices for Peace, and many organizations. Israel's safety and security is directly connected to Palestinian freedom, safety, and security. So we've been using a lot of rhetoric around a two-state solution for decades. And when I went there, I saw that we are nowhere near a two-state solution. Myself, as a sitting member of Congress, could not walk through certain checkpoints in the West Bank because I wasn't Jewish. So we're using rhetoric, but our policies aren't matching the rhetoric, and our policies aren't matching the urgency of the moment. October 7th was a horrible day, horrific day, and Hamas must be condemned, and we must get the hostages back, absolutely. But condemnation is only step one. How are we going to do the work to actually get to a state for Palestinians and do the work here to bring communities together around education and engagement so we could deal with anti-Semitism in a real way, Islamophobia in a real way, racism, sexism, and all the isms that continue to plague us in a real way? We haven't done it here, and we're not doing it globally.
Yeah, when you say we haven't done it here, I got to bring in President Biden, because there are new numbers that NBC has out about the president's support among young people and black voters. And I believe, and I don't have the numbers with me here, but I believe it is 70% of voters 18 to 35 do not agree with the way this president has handled the situation, the war in Gaza. What? Talk to me about what do you attribute that to? Is that the way? Is that the sort of one-sidedness, as you call it, in this conversation? And then I want to talk to you about the way this intersects with the Black experience. First, in terms of young voters, what does the president need to do differently?
Well, it's going to be tough, and it is tough because young voters were already upset over a variety of things, including how he's handled the climate issue. He's done some good things, and he's kind of playing a yo-yo with them. He does some good things, and they come in, and then he does something else that pushes them away. And the response to the Israel-Gaza conflict, again, the one-sidedness of it has really turned young people away and the BIPOC community away as well. And it's not just the president, it's Congress for the most part. I mean, I'm in a small minority calling for a ceasefire. I mean, the majority, it's growing a little bit. It started as like 6 or 8, but now it's up to 30, which is really good. But the president hasn't done that. And young people, they want peace. They want justice. They want a diplomatic response to what's going on. They want us to spend more money on education and jobs and climate and keeping people out of prison and healthcare than we spend on war. And this president at the moment is not showing the capacity to do that. And the party and the Congress, not just the party, all of Congress isn't showing the capacity to do that. So I think it's a combination of all these things that's turning young people off, and people of color have been turned off for a while because of lack of comprehensive immigration reform, if you're talking about the Latino community, and no conversation at all about reparations if you're talking about the Black community. But we're spending hundreds of billions of dollars every year on weapons and war, but we can't even have a conversation about reparations? Those are the things that are happening right now.
Do you think his position on Israel and Gaza, the Israel war with Hamas, has anything to do with I think he's lost about 15% of the Black vote in this latest NBC polling. Do you think that has anything to do with how he's talked about this conflict in particular? I mean, I know Ta-Nehisi Coates, the great writer on race in America, saw a lot of similarities in terms of the experience of what is happening with Palestinians, the lack of mobility, the lack of representation, and the Black experience in America. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, even before I went to the West Bank on my own, not on my own, but with J Street, I spoke to Israeli and Palestinian scholars over the phone just to learn more about it. And one of them, I forget his name, told me that we're at the civil rights era moment here in the West Bank. This is like Jim Crow. And when I heard Ta-Nehisi Coates say that, I felt what he was saying, because although I didn't live during the Jim Crow South, I read about it. And when I went there, it felt that way. It felt suffocating. It felt stifling. It felt immobile. And again, for me as a sitting member of Congress who has voted in support of the Iron Dome, right? So I felt what he was talking about there.
It is an extraordinarily complicated moment for a lot of people. It's a wrenching moment for a very specific group of people. I'm deeply grateful for your time and thoughts. I know it's complicated. Thank you for joining me tonight.